Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
And they got moxie. The thing you like about the Phillies more than anything else, they're a confident team.
Mad Dog Russo today on First Take. That's what he likes the most about the Phillies. Forget their offense. Forget their pitching. They got moxie. How much does that account for? In the big picture, you know, one of the things they were talking about today, which is interesting, is that the 93 team ran out and had all these wins, and in the end, they ended up losing to Joe Carter and the Blue Jays. Is there a team out there that you look at and say, look, the Phillies have the best record in baseball, but they're not as good as this team? Does that team exist? And is moxie what separates the Phillies from the field? Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, is back with the Phils red hot. I want to get your thoughts on that. Mad Dog Russo this morning on First Take said that's what he likes most about this team, Mike. He said they have moxie. We've all been kind of wondering what's up with this team. How come they're different? It's the same team we've seen really from a year ago. But is that something that is noticeable about them and why they stand out?
Well, they do have some resiliency, and they have showed that over the past few seasons, right? Just overcoming slow starts, beating the Braves in the division series. You know, I don't know how much the moxie helped them when they dropped games 6 and 7 at home in the National League Championship Series last year. I guess they were out-moxied by the Arizona Diamondbacks, but they definitely do have resiliency, and I think that's part of their, I don't want to say their charm, or part of what endears them to the fans is that they are never out of a ball game.
Yeah, they come back, they fight hard, they do all the crazy stuff, you know, they throw the water on each other, they have fun with it, but they also have some big games, big guys, and one of them is Ranger Suarez, 9-0, 136, 0.79 whip. You've been around this team for a bunch of years, Mike. I don't know, this guy's got 9 wins before Memorial Day. We're watching something kind of special here.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a real sense of that last night in the ballpark. You know, for a Tuesday night in May, there were 40,000 people in that ballpark, and they were into every pitch. And Ranger Suarez is like, he's a throwback pitcher. That's what Rob Thompson called him last night. He's an easy guy to go to a game and watch because he's just getting the ball and throwing. He's not taking a lot of time in between pitches. And, yeah, he's doing something that we haven't seen before. You know, I'm pretty old, but when you throw around names like Grover Cleveland Alexander, and not the Grover Cleveland Alexander of the 1920s, the Grover Cleveland Alexander from 1911 to 1917, I mean, yeah, he's doing something that we haven't seen in more than 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy that Mad Dog threw out there today was Juan Marichal, and I'm looking at his 1966 is the last time someone started 9-0 with an ERA of this ilk, and you're talking about guys back then that were winning 25, 26. I don't know that he's getting to 25 or 26, but you're going to be hearing about a 20-game, going for a 20-game winner here pretty soon if this keeps up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about wins being devalued and things like that, but he's 9-0, and you talked to Bryce Harper after the game, and he talked about it in Rangers' last start when it was clear that Ranger was going to come out of the game after the 5th inning, and I think they were down 2-1 or something, and Bryce said, let's get him a W. It's important to the team. It's like the team is into the fact that he is 9-0. And you mentioned Juan Marichal, and Rangers also the first Phillies pitcher to win 9 straight starts since Robin Roberts in 1952. Now, I wish 1952 and 1966 were like yesterday, but they're more than 50, 60 years ago. So, yeah, we're definitely seeing something special here with Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, we're talking with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, the Phillies. And, look, last night, you mentioned it, like the ballpark's filled. We talked a little bit about that this year, but they're playing the Rangers, who won the World Series last year. And I said, look, if Suarez wins this game, he's jumped up to number 2 or 3 in the Cy Young betting odds for a lot of places. That was a kind of a game last night, I think, that put the league on notice. Now, hey, this guy's 8-0, great. You win the 9th game, you beat Texas, now you're 9-0. I think that was kind of a big moment for him and maybe the Phillies. They've been talking about the schedule, but you beat the World Series champs. He strikes out 10 and shuts them down. That was a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what was really great and speaks to how good Ranger has pitched. In the first 2 innings, he strikes out 5 guys, all swinging. Well, Mike, he uses 4 different pitches to get those third strikes swinging. Usually a guy will rely on his fastball, a curveball for an out pitch, especially early in the game. Changeup, he's kind of sticking with one pitch. In the first 2 innings, Ranger uses 4 different pitches to get 5 strikeouts swinging for that swinging third strike. I don't know if I really haven't seen that too much. A pitcher able to command and throw that many variety of pitches to keep hitters off balance. Those first 2 innings were the prime example of why Ranger is doing what he's doing right now.
All right, yeah, we talked about it before he came on, Mike. I know it's tough, but if you had to pick a guy, Suarez or Wheeler, to win the big game for you right now, who you taking?
Yeah, it's tough because you got Wheeler's history, right, in the postseason, but Rangers' history in the postseason is also not bad. Hey, it's a nice problem to have. Right now, I'm going with the hot hand. I'm going with Ranger Suarez till he loses, and then maybe we'll reassess. But again, we talk about these nice problems that the Phillies have. How do you fit Spencer Turnbull into the rotation? Who do you decide to start game 1 of a playoff series? What do you do with Cody Clemens when Trey Turner comes back? These are nice problems to have if you're a baseball team.
Yeah, that and, Mike, we were talking before. All right, Wheeler gets game 1. Nola's the 2 guy, but do they even think about using Suarez and splitting those right-handers up? I know it's May and we're talking about crazy stuff like this, but just, again, to get him further up the road, if this continues along, those are the kind of decisions that the Phillies are going to have to make.
Yeah, and you look at it, Mike, and say, okay, if you're an opposing team and you're in a 3-5 series and you drop game 1 to whoever, Ranger Suarez or Zach Wheeler, now you're coming back down 1-0 in game 2 and you're facing either Suarez or Nola. You've got that combination coming ahead of you in games 2 and 3. Boy, that puts an awful lot of pressure on you to try to win game 1 so you're not behind the 8 ball in game 1. Again, the Phillies are a unique team in that they are built for the long haul of the 162 games, and with this starting pitching and bullpen, they are also built for a short series. It's almost, and there aren't many teams out there that are built like that for both things that you need to win.
Well, Mike, and if the pitching can stay like this, and we're not to say 9-0, you're going to be 18-0 or anything, but like if this pitching staff keeps you in games, it looks like at some point this offense is going to start following. I start to look around. You got Schwarber. He's up to 220, and people say 220, not very good. Well, he's a guy who's been under 200 for most of his career here in Philadelphia. Romuto, 280. Harper, 280 now with that home run last night, the double last night. Bohm doesn't seem to be cooling off. 333, 391 on base percentage for him. A double last night, another 2 RBI. Stott's up to 273. You got the offense. Once the calendar flips to June, you would think that that's only going to get better.
Yeah, right, what Charlie Manuel calls hitting weather, right? It's like when the weather gets like this. And it is amazing the fact that they are scoring. I believe only the Dodgers might be averaging more runs per game than them, and they haven't really started to hit yet. Their stars haven't really started to hit. And Trey Turner hit, now he's out of the lineup. You're right, Bryce Harper looks absolutely locked in. I think he's hit 6 balls in the last 3 games with exit velocities of 99 miles per hour or more. He smoked those 2 balls last night, the home run and the double. You got to feel that, Kyle Schwarber's going to get hot and have one of those months where he hits 15, 16 home runs. So it's funny. This team really offensively so far has been supported by the young guys, right? Brandon Marsh got off to a good start. Bohm's been great all season. Stott's been great in May. It's been the young guys that have kind of stepped forward, and now we're kind of waiting for those veterans to catch up, and there are signs that it is happening, and Exhibit A is Bryce Harper and what he's doing in May, and especially what he's done the last 3 games.
And, Mike, last night, they're playing the World Series champs, so you got Texas in town. Everybody's amped up, 40,000. Suarez is on the mound. Harper hits that bomb to center field to kind of kick off the night. But you got 7 from Suarez, Hoffman, Strahm, Alvarado. Like, it felt like a playoff type of setup there, and you got a chance to see what that bullpen might look like. And I know Hoffman wasn't great last night, but you kind of saw what it almost felt like a playoff like preview there.
Yeah, that's the recipe, right? The starter goes 7 innings, and then the bullpen, the righty Hoffman. They kind of jumped Hoffman a little bit, but he got out of it with the help of Strom, who's just been magnificent all season and is really pitching well. And then Alvarado comes in and really gave up the base hit in the ninth inning, but other than that was really lights out there. Yeah, you hit it on the head there. That's the playoff blueprint. 7 innings from the starter. Hoffman, maybe Strom to get a tough lefty, and then the Alvarado on the back end. Those are the 3 guys you kind of see as of right now, closing down big games for you. So, yeah, last night was the blueprint for October. And, again, another nice problem to have if you're talking about how you're going to win games in October on May 21st before Memorial Day.
Yeah, we're only at Memorial Day, but it almost like, Mike, because they're so far out and we're watching something kind of fun and kind of special, we all keep thinking about this big picture and what this team means. We know winning 115, 116 game doesn't guarantee you anything. That's the trouble of the long season sometimes. You can have these fun, long seasons, and one thing can kind of, flip on the dime and change for you there. So I'll ask you, they're 35-14, best record in baseball, but do you look at them as the best team in baseball, even though their record says they are?
Boy, interesting question there, Mike. If you, again, life on the line said to me, who's the best team in baseball? And, I've watched this team, late at night, a couple of nights this week, even though they lost last night. Boy, the Dodgers are tough. The Dodgers are just tough. You're trotting out Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Will Smith at the top of that lineup. That's just tough. Now, the Dodgers pitching, I have questions about. They got Walker Buehler back. He was shaky in his first 2 starts, pitched well in his last starts. I think the Phillies might have some better starting pitching. The Phillies might have a better bullpen, but that Dodger lineup is tough. And then you look at the American League, what the Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles are doing in that American League. The Yankees with Juan Soto off to a great start there. So, really, it can be any given day who you like, who do you think the best team is in baseball. But I think it's a group of like 5 power teams right now, 5 kind of Death Stars out there, right? It's the Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Yankees, and Baltimore Orioles right now.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Last year the Dodgers' problem was the pitching was a disaster. I mean, their pitching was horrible last year, so much so that they went out and bought Yamamoto, brought in Glass now. So their pitching's definitely better, but that's what did them in last year. So it should be fun. The Braves, 6 games back, Mike. The Phillies had been in this spot. Are we ready to say that the NL East is over?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to say that now before Memorial Day, but, they are starting to lose contact a little bit. And, and you see, the big guys haven't woken up yet. Now, I'm sure that they're going to get hot. And, look, I think the Phillies at some point are going to cool off. I think the Phillies are going to win 100 games. But right now, they're on pace for, 114, 115. So the Phillies at some point, I think, are going to cool off. But, you're 6 games up, and the Phillies have played more games because they have days off around the London trip coming out. I'm sure the Braves are going to get hot, but it's funny you mentioned that because I looked at standings this morning and I said, "Wow, 6 games. That's a lot." Even though Memorial Day, that it takes a while for that to for a team to make that up. So. Yeah, it could be a question here where the Phillies are on the verge of taking control of the division, and what we'll have a little role reversal here. The Braves playing the role of the Phillies, and the Phillies playing the role of the Braves from what we've seen in past seasons.
Yeah, and I've said to you before, Mike, I don't know that the Braves are all that interested in the division, but just because of what's happened. But on this day last year, Atlanta was 7 games up on Philadelphia. They were 5.5 games up on Miami and 4.5 games up on your Mets, but 7 up on the Phillies on this day last year. They were 29-18, and they just ran away with the division. They just no one got close to them ever. But the Phillies on this day last year were already 7 games back, and Atlanta is 6 games back today. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that as the Memorial Day weekend gets here. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'll ask you real quick before we get out of here. Did the Pacers choke a chance away last night?
Yeah, they gave a game away. That was an opportunity to win again. Why teams don't foul, up 3, and send that guy to the foul line to shoot 2 foul shots, allow you to take the 3-pointer? I'll never know. But that's one the Indiana Pacers might be kicking themselves for. Before that, I thought the Celtics would win in 6. Maybe now the Celtics win in 5, because that was one of the games I thought the Pacers would have got, and a real blown opportunity for the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, man. I feel like we see this more and more, where you're like, why didn't you foul in that situation? It's just sickening. And then you get to overtime, you have a chance. The turnover there by Halliburton, just coughed the game up, man. The Pacers had that game. That was like the Sixers-Knicks type of situation. You're like, how do you lose that game? The game was, you had it. How do you lose it? And it was just, the turnover to give the Celtics that chance was brutal at the end of regulation. So, good game last night, good game one, but I think the Celtics steal the game, and they probably now do what Mike says, win that thing in 5. Game 1 tonight of the Western Conference Finals is on 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry, where are you heading today? You got something happening today, any events?
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight up at 7 o'clock, something you were talking about on Twitter the other day with a couple guys. I'm going to the Shore Conference Baseball Finals, Southern Regional versus CBA. The game is at, I don't even know what it's called, but it's the home of the Blue Claws in Lakewood.
Yeah, First Energy.
League Stadium. First Energy. Should be a great setting out there. And, of course, so we'll have that tonight at PressOfAC.com. And then tomorrow, the baseball playoffs really swing into action. So I'll be heading down below exit 10, heading south on the Parkway. Hopefully I get out of there before the Memorial Day traffic starts to watch Middle Township and Lower Cape May face off in a baseball playoff game. So that's tomorrow. But tonight up at First Energy for Southern Regional and CBA for the Shore Conference Championship.
Yeah, I know we were having that conversation. You think something like that could work down here?
Yeah, I think it absolutely could. I think the Cape Atlantic League has done a great job with instituting tournaments.
Real quick, Mike, just to give people, the listeners, they weren't in on our conversation with these people, so I'll fill them in real fast. You're talking about the Shore Conference Baseball Championship. They're playing it at Lakewood the Jersey Shore Blue Calls Park.
Correct.
The Cape Atlantic League just finished their tournament, which was held at the home field. Mainland beat St. Augustine. So they were suggesting make it a cool night, do it somewhere with the lights. We don't really have that ballpark, with Surf Stadium now doesn't have lights anymore, and that stadium not operational. But could a neutral site or some sort of, double-header weekend type feel make that tournament even bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think the Cape has done a great job with, starting up these tournaments, and I think making the championship game even more special than it is by moving it to a neutral site, maybe the Jerome Avenue Field in Margate, the home of Yogi Hiltner or something like that, and moving it to night so more people can go, more people from other teams can go, and it really becomes an event, I think is something that the Cape can look into and something that I'm sure they are. But I think I think that would be a good idea, making these events special. Because that's really what high school sports is about creating memories and moments for kids that last a lifetime. And I think moving it to a neutral field at night would be a great step.
Yeah, we'll see if that gains any traction. I think it would be cool if there's a couple places that have lights that could do something like that. I think a Friday doubleheader for the Final Four would be neat, like a 5 and an 8. Have all 4 teams out there, and then everybody kind of hangs out and watches it. Make it a bigger event, and we'll see what happens with that. But all right, Mike McGarry, everybody, check out all the coverage at PressOfAC.com. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike, we'll see you down the road. Thank you.
All right, Mike McGarry, everybody, from the Press of Atlantic City, and he'll be back on Friday with a look at the weekend. The Phillies this weekend, by the way, they're playing the Texas Rangers right now, not right this minute, but this series in Philadelphia. And then they're going to travel on the road to Colorado Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they'll be in San Francisco next week before they come back home to take on the Cardinals. So that's your next group of games.